Welcome back. We're looking at the sport of swimming and its challenges. Over the years, swimmers have called for more support from the Federation. But again, the issue of sponsors and funds then comes into play. But with good administration comes proper support. Alan Fritz is president of Swimming South Africa and is with us this afternoon. And also joining on in the conversation is former Olympic swimmer Karin Prinsloo. Karin, thanks for staying with us on the show. I'm in particular worried about the psychological welfare of athletes, especially because they're still left in the dark on whether or not the Tokyo 2021 Olympic Games will be taking place. The mid-mile was postponed, I believe, until March, and there was aquatic championships as well in December of 2020 that kind of put everyone on the back foot. So I'm still worried, especially because you are a former swimmer, in terms of the current crop that is waiting for the go-ahead.
Yes, it's, I can't imagine what it must be to be a professional athlete in these times. But like I said, there's so many potential, and we just hope that the swimmers that were going to swim at last year's Olympics, that they're still going to have the motivation to push through and make it to this year's Olympic Games, because it really is looking bright. Regards to the women standing up as well, and obviously we've had Chad, and he's probably going to step up again. Regards to the federations and stuff, I think it's I know OPEX is always the federations depends on OPEX, but I think it's in other sports as well. I think it's time for Swim SA or ASA or the for the federations to take lead and, for example, to try and get sponsors for individual sponsors for athletes that can fund them regardless of the government money. So then it's quite, it's more reliable and sustainable. So it's going to make the athletes, it's going to encourage them more, especially, and it's just going to not make them worry about financial, having to being able to do their sports to the best of their abilities and to actually live a life that is sustainable. So, I think there must be, with all the problems in the capital, like in the past few years, I think there must be a plan of, like I said, just like Swim SA that looks for sponsors for the swimmers, not just from the government, because we all know that that's where we're being let down a lot.
Well said, Karin. And Mr. Fritz, as you've heard Karin just mention, she's a former athlete who's come through the system of Swimming South Africa. But what I still fail to understand is why in 2017 we sent a contingent of junior athletes who needed to pay for their own funds. I can't imagine how hard it must have been preparing for your travel expenses, accommodation, facilities to train. I think that's a lot of pressure mentally for an athlete to handle. By the way, that is just a year after you're appointed as SA Swimmers president. And also in 2018, the short course championships where the contingent was sent, and it was all on a self-funded agenda. What are your thoughts on that and your expression about how Swimming South Africa has dealt with that, and how can we prevent that in the future?
You're 100% that a lot of our tours are self-funded, but where it, and I must firstly just say that I really concur with Karin's views. If corporate South Africa doesn't want to put money into sport as federations for various reasons, then at least individual athlete endorsements is the way to go, because that would sustain the athletes. Because we can't see that we will have the type of funding even from the lotteries organization into the OPEX program to support top athletes. But just to come back to our Swimming South Africa's funding model, yes, for international events like the World Short Course Championships and World Long Course Championships, these are all supported by FINA, so athletes don't pay the full amounts for those events. We have a staggered model.
Do they need to pay at all, Mr. Fritz?
Sorry?
Do they need to pay anything at all?
An athlete in our country, doesn't matter which sport you are, it is really a bad indictment against us as sports administrators, our government, and also corporate South Africa. I mean, athletes should not pay at all to participate in sport, and that's the model that we've been asking for many, many years. If you look throughout the world, maybe with exception here and there, sport in all European countries are funded by government. If you see what the government puts in place in United Kingdom, they've got UK sport that receives huge amount of support from government. And even in the USA, I mean, even in Australia, you see our sports funded. In our country, we are completely underfunded.
Is SASCOC to blame, Mr. Fritz? Sorry to cut you short.
Like ourselves.
Is SASCOC to blame, in particular with the funding model that you had mentioned?
No, SASCOC's not to blame for the funding model. Sport, in particular swimming in South Africa, has always been underfunded. We were fortunate in the early years of our democracy. We were funded by Telkom, and when we had the funds, no athlete paid for any tour outside of our country. We unfortunately lost the sponsorship, not of our own doing, as that Telkom has just changed their strategy. And we were fortunately enough to have some funds up until about 2006, 2008, Beijing. After Beijing, after London, our funds dwindled, and that's only when athletes started contributing. But that's wrong. I can't agree with you more. We have to relook at how sport is funded in our country from a government perspective, from a corporate South Africa perspective, and I hope, and I sincerely hope that individual endorsements will take center stage after COVID. I am concerned that our call, and I personally have seen a number of corporate organizations requesting support for our athletes. I have engagements with the minister until late last year. We have had engagements with the lotteries because swimming is a top priority sport in terms of the Olympic movement, and we have to get better funding for our athletes. Right now, if the playing field was equal, we would have a very, very good contingent of athletes, and Karin will concur with this, very good contingent of athletes that would qualify for Tokyo. As I said, the playing field is completely unlevel. Countries across the globe has been in preparation. We had a very, very excellent short course championships in Pietermaritzburg towards the end of the year, August, September, regional base, and then the national championships. And the talent that came through at the short course championship augurs very well for swimming as a sport in our country.
Fantastic. Alan Fritz, Swimming SA president, in conversation as well with Karin Prinsloo as we have a look at the state of swimming in South Africa and 2021 being an Olympic year. We'll wrap up our conversation in a short while. This is Inside Sports. Stay with us.